Real quick before the video, I'm doing a complete playthrough of Link's Awakening Hero Mode over on my gameplay channel, Zeltic Plays. So if you want to follow along, check the link in the description or card in the top right. Link's Awakening was already one of my favourite 2D Zelda games, and the Switch remake has only further cemented it as one of Link's best top-down adventures. The original was an incredibly unique and fun game, but was plagued with the limitations of the original Game Boy, forcing you to constantly switch between your two item slots and breaking the world up into small chunks. In contrast, the remake is an incredibly fluid, charming yet faithful look on Koholint Island, and rediscovering Koholint and its secrets is basically all I've been doing. But it's got me thinking, could we see other 2D Zelda games remade in this fashion? Link's Awakening's Switch remake was handled by ZREO, a small video game company which has previously produced the remakes of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and alongside Nintendo the anniversary edition of Four Swords and Triforce Heroes. The company worked with the original source code and assets of the Nintendo 64 games for their 3DS remakes, but Link's Awakening was entirely remade from the ground up, built from scratch rather than relying on the foundations of a decades-old game. And this week, on my home turf, the UK, Link's Awakening topped sales charts for physical releases, the only time a Zelda game has managed to hold the #1 spot on the list since the Wind Waker launched in 2003. So there's still absolutely a market for 2D Zelda games, and I think it's the right time to focus on and celebrate Zelda's history. The Zelda series is in a kind of transition period at the moment. After the launch of Breath of the Wild, the game that absolutely tore down and rebuilt the conventions of the series, redefining how 3D Zelda games will play in the future. Its sequel will almost definitely play in a nearly identical way to Breath of the Wild, further cementing the new open-air, survivalist gameplay as the future of the series. So as the 3D Zelda games reinvent themselves and move forward, I love seeing this return to classic Zelda with a remake of Link's Awakening. And with the apparent success of ZREO's Koholint adventure, could this mark the beginning of a series of remakes, bringing older, less accessible Zelda games to the Switch? The obvious choice following a Link's Awakening remake would be the Oracle games. Originally made by Capcom, the Oracle duology was designed for the Game Boy Color, and take place directly following Link's Awakening, even featuring the exact same incarnation of Link. After his adventure on Koholint, Link returns to Hyrule, only to be summoned by the Triforce to the lands of Labrynna and Holodrum, where the demons known as General Onox and Veran are wreaking havoc. The Oracle games are two halves of the same story, which can connect together in the linked game where the true final boss lies, which was a pretty cool feature for the Game Boy Color, making use of passwords to link up the two games. These games actually reuse a whole lot of assets from Link's Awakening, from the visuals to the music. Originally, Capcom approached Nintendo with a proposal to remake the very first Zelda game for the Game Boy Color, and follow the remake with an entirely original game. Cue a period of development hell, and a little influence from the man himself Shigeru Miyamoto, and the project had shifted into a trilogy based on the Triforce, known as Mystical Seed of Courage, Wisdom and Power. This idea was short-lived however, and Mystical Seed of Courage was dropped entirely, with Power adapted into Oracle of Seasons, and Wisdom into Oracle of Ages. Despite their messy development, the Oracles are a great, often overlooked pair of Zelda games on the Game Boy Color. They're only available on their home system alongside the 3DS eShop, similar to Link's Awakening DX. One of the reasons for Link's Awakening's remake, according to series producer Eiji Aonuma, was that as time goes on, the game is getting progressively harder for new players to purchase and play, and the Zelda team wanted to ensure that a new generation could enjoy Koholint Island. Well, Labrynna and Holodrum are stuck in the same limbo which Link's Awakening was. So perhaps the hero of Hyrule, after having woken the Windfish, will set sail for new lands once again on the Nintendo Switch. Aside from the Oracle games, a classic Zelda I'd love to see given a fresh coat of polish is the original, released on the NES in 1986. The very first Zelda game is one of my favourites, though it definitely shows its age. It's an incredibly simple adventure, sending Link through the wilderness of Hyrule visiting 8 different dungeons, building the pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom before facing Ganon in Death Mountain. If the original Zelda was remade using Link's Awakening's engine and given a few quality of life updates, it would be an incredible experience for a load of newer Zelda fans. The game hides many secrets, some optional, some essential, behind bombable walls and rocks. But without simply dropping bombs and hoping to blow through a secret wall, there's no way of knowing where these secrets are. It's either bomb all walls in the game and find things through trial and error, or look them up online. The simplest change which would improve the first Zelda's accessibility an unbelievable amount would be to include cracked walls, signs that a bomb could break through and uncover a secret. Or, if the developers wanted to keep the game closer to its cryptic roots, they could include the sword technique where hitting a secret wall with a sword will result in a different, hollow sound, signalling that there's something on the other side. And the final game on this little list of Zelda adventures I'd love to see swing onto the Switch is the one that, if you've followed me for a while, you'll have been expecting. My absolute favourite 2D Zelda, the Minish Cap. Like the Oracle duo, the Minish Cap was the work of Capcom, and is an absolutely gorgeous Zelda game taking place centuries after Skyward Sword in the early years of the Kingdom of Hyrule. The game serves as the origin story for one of the series' most overlooked villains, Vaati, who terrorizes the land on his search for the powerful Light Force. Minish Cap's eponymous mechanic is Link's ability to shrink to the size of an insect, where he can interact with the mystical Picori, a race of miniature people who are completely invisible to adults. Throughout Link's quest to stop Vaati, he forges the Foresword from the Picori blade, adventuring across the land both as a Hylian-sized and a pocket-sized hero. The Minish Cap stands out to me because of how well polished it is. Everything about the game is incredibly well designed. Seeing it remade and brought to the Switch would be a dream come true, though it could be argued that, compared to the original Link's Awakening, the Oracle games and the very first Zelda, its need for a remake is less apparent. It still looks incredible, plays fluidly and sounds great. Its only issue is accessibility, which is still better than the Oracle games, being playable on the Game Boy Advance, 3DS's Ambassador program and the Wii U Virtual Console. But there's one more 2D Zelda game I'd like to see on the Switch, more so than even my favourite of Link's top-down adventures. And that's one we haven't seen before. I want to see a fully original 2D Zelda game on the Switch. ZREO built Link's Awakening completely from the ground up, so I'd love to see what they could do if they were given the reins to design an entirely fresh adventure. After ZREO completed the 3DS remasters of both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, there was a decent amount of interest in seeing what they could do if they were given the opportunity to finish off the Hero of Time's saga with a final part to a trilogy on the 3DS. And while this would be incredibly cool, I think following up such beloved games is a colossal undertaking. Developing a standalone 2D Zelda game for the Switch would be a comparatively smaller task. Using the Link's Awakening engine, a brand new 2D Zelda game could see Link venture through new lands or a reimagined Hyrule. The last time we got an original, single-player 2D Zelda adventure was A Link Between Worlds in 2013, and even that was largely based on A Link to the Past, featuring the same world and similar story progression. I absolutely loved Link's Awakening's Switch remake, and I'd love to see what ZREO could do if they were given the chance to create something truly original for the system. Thanks for watching this video. Like I said in the beginning, I'm currently in the middle of a playthrough of Link's Awakening's Hero mode over on my gameplay channel, so check out the playlist if you want to follow along. After Link's Awakening's done, I'm considering playing through the Minish Cap or the Oracle games, so if that's something you're interested in, head over to Zeltic Plays. If you like this video, leave a like and let me know in the comments what 2D Zelda games you'd love to see in the future. Cheers guys, and I'll see you next time.
you.